Okay, thank you all for the participating and giving me an opportunity to speak on the issues concerning the pensioners. Of course, before I could commence on the main issues of the pensions, I would like to present a brief background wherein how the pension is our right. There is a saying that all old pensioners, all old people are not pensioners, but all pensioners are old people. Actually, pension, as far as India is concerned, it dates back to 3rd century AC, where Shukraniti prescribes that pension should be given at 40% of the wages that employee was drawing. Of course, a modern pension scheme was introduced from 1st January 1920 for European employees. For Indian employees or native employees, they are introduced what is known as Contributory Provident Fund. And commutation was introduced with effect from 1924, and based on various recommendations of the Pay Commission, the formula of pension has undergone a liberalization. From 1/1/1950, based on the recommendations of the first Pay Commission, uniform age of retirement was fixed. And pension was fixed at 1/80 of the emoluments for each year of service, subject to a maximum of 35 years. And retirement age has now been enhanced to 60 years from 1/5/1997. And based on 3rd Pay Commission recommendation, the 33 months of emolument was the age of retirement. The 35 was reduced to 33 years, and average emolument was reduced from 36 months to 10 months. And from 1/4/79, a slab system of calculation of monthly pension was introduced. From 1/1/1986, it was changed to the 50% of the average emoluments as pension, and linkage of service was still continued. From 1/1/2006, linkage of service for full pension abolished, and 50% of the last pay pension was introduced, as well as age-related pension was also introduced. From 7th Pay Commission, as you already know, many of you are benefited by that, our pay is notionally fixed in the revised pay scales, and 50% of the amount pay that has been arrived at has been fixed as the pension. So these are the changes that came in the pension formula based upon the recommendations of the Pay Commissions. For that background is, in 1982, on the 17th December of 1982, the Constitution Bench headed by Justice Y.V. Chandrachud gave a historical judgment, which is considered as a Magna Carta for the pensioners. It says, a pension scheme consistent with available resources must provide that they will be able to live free from want and with decency, independence, and same standard equivalent at the type pre-retirement level. And the Supreme Court held, pension is neither a bounty nor a matter of grace, depending on the sweet will of the employer that creates a vested right subject to a statutory rules. Pension is not an ex gratia payment, but it is payment for the past service rendered. It is a social welfare measure rendering socio-economic justice to those who in their life ceaselessly toiled for the employer on an assurance that in their old age, they would not be left in the lurch. And pensioners' forum is class by themselves, and this class cannot be divisible for entitlement of payment of pension to those who retired before and after that date. As it was being done, the day on the Pay Commission was implemented, pension, those who retired afterwards getting a more pension, whereas the same benefits were not extended. But the 5th Pay Commission stated, it needs to be emphatically stated that the pension is not in the nature of alms, doles, beggars. The senior citizens need to be treated with dignity, courtesy, benefited their age. Pension is their statutory, inalienable, legally enforceable right, and the sweat of their brow are earned such it should be fixed, revised, modified, and changed in entirely dissimilar to the salaries granted to the serving employees. So this particular formula that was laid down by the 5th Pay Commission started guiding the Pensioners Association all over the country. And also, we have to put it on record, It is mainly because of the recommendations of the Fifth Pay Commission. More and more pensioners association came into existence. A systematic organization of pensioners movement started. From a garlanding and pricing system, we started moving into demanding our rights as pensioners. As a result of these things, recommendations, as far as Karnataka is concerned, we should say with pride, Karnataka PNT Pensioners Association became a leading light in this regard. And they were the, like Mr. Bhaskaran, Sadashivarao and others, they were the founders of the Karnataka Coordination Committee of Central Government Pensioners Association, which played a very pivotal role in the preparation of the memorandum for the Sixth Pay Commission on the pensioners issues, as well as for the Seventh Pay Commission on the pensioners issues. And as a result of these efforts, with the combined efforts of the serving employees led by Confederation and the JCM, and the pensioners associations led by BCPC, Bharat Central Pensioners Coordination Committee, which consisted of almost all pensioners associations, mainly by the National Coordination Committee of Pensioners Association and Bharat Pensioners Samaj, is together became the leading lights in the pensioners movement. And as a result of the recommendation of the Seventh Pay Commission for the notional fixation of pay has come. So this is a struggle, we have done it. Now we coming to the brass talks of the pension. Should have, one condition is should have joined pensionable service prior to 1/1/2004. Of course, all these things you are not aware. So I am rushing through those portions of it. As you know, after 1/1/2004, National Pension System was introduced. And again, it is a violation of the Supreme Court judgment that is famously known as Nakra judgment. However, I will not go into that because it is beyond the scope of this session. CPF pensionaries, because this was one of the issues being raised in various meetings of the CCCGPA by many organizations. Those who are governed by contributory provident fund scheme, it is mainly applicable to autonomous bodies, statutory bodies, because all central government employees mandatorily were brought into the pension scheme from 1/1/1997. But in autonomous bodies, there was an option. And one time option was given that on 1/1/86, all those who were governed by CPF were given option to switch over to pension scheme. But again, it was repeated, but subsequently that pension scheme option has been removed. This is creating some problems. I think it is a legal issue that has been pending. Let us see what the courts will decide. And family pension is payable to eligible members of the deceased employee while in service or after retirement. Sixth Pay Commission introduced what is known as age-related pension. I am not going into the quantum of pension because, as you already know, 50% of the last pay drawn is the pension, 30% of the last pay drawn is the family pension. That has become from 1/1/19, 1/1/2006. Pay means basic pay. Basic pay as defined by the Sixth Pay Commission is pay in the pay band plus grade pay. As per Seventh Pay Commission, the pay at the index in which they are drawing at the appropriate level on which their pay scale is applicable. So that means no question of special pay, personal pay, any other pay except not practicing allowance is treated as pay for the purpose of pension. Now on the age-related pension, based on the demands that we have placed, and also incremental benefit that has to be given to the pensioners, Sixth Pay Commission introduced age-related pension. From 80 years to less than 85 years, it is 20% of the basic pension. That is, if you are drawing 1,000 rupees pension, it will be increased to 1,200 rupees. Then from 85 years to less than 90 years, it will be 30% of the basic pension. From 90 years to less than 95 years, it is the 40% of the basic pension. From 95 years to less than 100 years, it will be 50% of the basic pension. From 100 years or more, it is 100% of the basic pension. Of course, we the Pensioners Association, especially from CCCGPA, when we made a presentation before the Seventh Pay Commission, we said this 100 years is imaginary because we can never, most of the people never survive for 100 years. We wanted this incremental benefit to be given from 65 years. Unfortunately, Pay Commission did not make any recommendation on that issue. One question that comes is, when is this increased pension has to be paid? Is it from the day on which you reach 80th birthday or after completing the 80 years? Government orders are very clear. The first day of the month in which you complete the 80 years, you will be entitled for increased pension. It is not from the 80th birthday, but it is from the day you complete 80 years. But only thing is, from the first day of the month in which you complete 80 years, you will get the increased pension. For example, supposing you were born in the month of August 2008, then you will get it from the 1st August. Incidentally, if your birthday happens to the first day of the month, you will also get only from the first day of the month. The pensioners, family pensioners, whose death of first day will also be entitled to additional pension. So it is applicable to family pensioners also. This was one of the questions that I received. So answer is, it is applicable from the day they complete 80 years of age. That is from the first day of the 80 years of the month in which they completed the 80 years, not from the 80th birthday. Then retirement gratuity, it is 16.5 times and maximum is 20 lakhs. Emoluments includes DA. Actually, because of DA freezer, those who retired from 1/1/1920 to 2022, 1st July 2021, their gratuity comes down because DA factor is not taken into consideration. Of course, death gratuity, death while in service. Of course, most of us are retired people. It may be only an academic interest, less than 1 year of qualifying service, or you can guide your youngsters. It is 2 times the emoluments. 1 year or more, but less than 11 years qualifying service, it is 6 times. 11 years or more, but less than 20 years, 12 times. 11 years, but less than 20 years qualifying service, 20 times the emoluments. 20 years or more qualifying, 6-monthly period of qualifying, subject to a maximum of 33 months. So there is a concept of residuary gratuity. Supposing government servants dies while in service or after retirement within 5 years from the date of his retirement, including compulsory retirement, as a penalty, if the actual amounts received by him, that is gratuity, retirement gratuity, commuted value received is less than the 12 times of the last pay, then the difference will be given as residuary gratuity. Of course, such cases may be very remote, but there is a people in our postal department known as Gramin Dock Savers who get regularized only in the last 5 or 10 years of service. They may be benefited. There may be very few cases of that type. Then nomination. See, family definition for gratuity is different from the family definition for the family pension. Every serving employee has to keep it in mind, because family, as far as gratuity is gratuity nomination is with reference to family. In event of change, we can give an alternate nomination also. But what is the definition for gratuity? Wife or wives, including judicially separated wife or wives, husband, including judicially separated husband, sons, including stepsons and adopted sons, unmarried daughters, widowed daughters, father, mother. Now, one thing is, as far as family pension is concerned, the first right comes to the spouse. But in gratuity, even after acquiring the spouse, if the nomination continues to remain in the name of the father, mother, or anybody else, the gratuity amount will go to that nominee, not to the spouse. Actually, in our office, we used to face a lot of problems of this, but authorizing authority is not competent to change the nomination. Nomination has to be filed by the concerned pensioner, and it has to be kept on record by the pension sanctioning authority. Therefore, that care has to be taken. Of course, all of us are retired. It may not be concerning of it, but you can guide some of the youngsters who are in your departments. Brother below 18 years, including stepbrothers, unmarried sisters, married daughters, and children of predeceased son. All these all comes in. Now there is a three operators are there in pension procedure. One is pension disbursing authority, the bank, treasury, PAO. If you are drawing from PAO, is there. As far as autonomous bodies are concerned, some of the autonomous bodies have entered into an agreement with banks where they keep a lump sum amount with the bank and bank becomes the disbursing authority. In some of the autonomous bodies, every month the pension bill is prepared by the concerned authority and a schedule is given to whose account it has to be transferred, like our employees provident fund scheme. So your autonomous bodies to which you belong, you have to find out what is the thing. As far as bank is concerned, in question of autonomous bodies, bank will not take the responsibility of the final disbursing authority. It continues to be remaining concerned autonomous body. Banks acts as an agent. Unlike in central government, bank becomes the disbursing authority. Even where the autonomous bodies have entered into an agreement and account is kept, your life certificates, etc., it has to go to your autonomous body or the authority to which you go. And on this point, if there is any doubt, I think our Surya Prakash will clarify at the end also on this aspect. Then pension sanctioning authority. Authority who sanctions pension is the authority. For example, in a central government, I belong to AG's office. My accountant general will sanction the pension. But it will go to our pay and accounts office. Pay and accounts office, it becomes the pension issue, PPO issuing authority. So it goes to PPO, PAO, and PAO issues the authority. As far as autonomous bodies are concerned, the pension sanctioning authority is autonomous body. PPO issuing authority is also a concerned autonomous body. Then pension is paid through bank. Can I open account in any of the bank I like? No. As far as central government employees are concerned, CPAO has listed out the banks, both public sector and private banks. I have to open account only in those banks. Similarly, in autonomous bodies, they have entered into an agreement of the sum of the banks. In that only we have to open our account. And pension payment is now permitted to be credited to a joint account with the pensioner. Earlier there was not there, now it is joint account can be opened. The existing single account can also be converted to joint account. In this regard, the Department of Pension has given a clarification as well as the circular issued by the Reserve Bank of India has stated that single account can be converted to a joint account. Therefore, my sincere request to all pensioners who have got their spouse, please convert your single account into joint account. It has two advantages. One is, if a pensioner, because none of us wants to die, but we have to die, because death is a certainty. Our family should not get into a problem for drawing the family pension. If we have got a joint account, there is one form 14. The spouse need not file the form 14. Spouse has to simply intimate by a simple letter that my pensioner has died, I am his spouse, and along with the death certificate, if you give that, bank will automatically start crediting, and they will convert the joint account into single account and start paying the family pension. Supposing there is no joint account, single account is there. Then after the death of the pensioner, spouse has to open a separate account in the bank, or if they have already got an account, the KYC norms have to be followed. Then you have to file a form 40. One simplification that has been done is, in such cases, attestation of form 14 is not required. You can simply file a form 14 and with the two witnesses, bank will verify based upon the KYC norms, they start paying the family pension. We have come across some cases where with knowledgeable people, they had not converted their single account into joint account. After their death, their spouse faced multiple problems in getting the family pension. Therefore, please open a joint account. That is one thing. Now you come to lifetime arrears. Then automatically lifetime arrears also can be drawn by the joint account holder. That is one advantage that is there. Therefore, you open a joint account. If you have got a single account, convert it to joint account. Joint account is only with spouse, not with children or anybody else. That is the thing. Then recovery of one question that comes, can excess amount credited to our account, our pension account, can it be recovered? Thus, Civil Code Manual says, and the instructions of the CPAO says that before commencing the pension payment, all of us give an undertaking to the bank. If any excess payment is made to my pension account, that can be recovered from my pension. Therefore, excess payment can be recovered from the pension. Please remember, excess payment of pension is different from excess payment that has occurred because of the wrong thing that has been done by the department. Calculation of pension at bank may become excess, but if some wrongly my pension is fixed excess, we are governed by Supreme Court judgment, wherein nothing can be recovered from the pensioners. And of course, based upon the Supreme Court judgment, the Department of Pension has given an instructions. Each case has to be examined on merits. Merits means whether mistake has happened because of the concerned official or pensioner or because of the department. If the mistake has happened because of the department, no recovery can be done and pension can be refixed. It is not a reduction of pension. Pension can be refixed. That is about the excess amount credited. Then income tax. Pension is treated as considered under salary head. So whoever is disbursing the salary, according to Income Tax Act, tax deduction at source, that is TDS, has to be made. Therefore, banks are, as pension disbursing authority, banks are liable to recover the income tax or deduct the income tax at source, subject to the conditions based upon the income. As it is there in our services, we can also file a declaration before the bank branch stating that what are the savings you are doing and whether the actually income tax comes to you or not. Of course, now as far as income tax is concerned, for the assessment year 21-22 and previous year 2021, that is current financial year, we have got two types of income tax. One is old regime, another is new regime. Every one of you has to file a declaration before the pension disbursing authority, whether you want to continue in the old regime or you want to switch over to new regime. That is very important. I think banks have already sent letters. Maybe because of this lockdown, the date will get extended. Earlier it was 30th April, now it may get extended, I don't know, but that has to be done. And generally you keep it in mind. If your taxable income crosses 12 lakh rupees, please note, if your taxable income crosses 12 lakh rupees, new regime is advantageous. If your taxable income is less than 12 lakh rupees, old regime is advantageous. Taxable income includes your pension, interest earned on your deposits, and any other income you may be getting it. Each one of us has to calculate and decide what is regime is advantageous to one. Then as far as recovery of income tax from pension is, family pension is concerned, family pension is not reckoned under salary head. family pension is treated as income from other sources. Therefore, banks will not recover income tax from the family pension. It is a concerned family pensioner to file a return, calculate his tax liability, pay the advance tax as it is done from other income from other sources. This can be kept in mind. And one more thing that comes, in a joint account, whoever is the first account holder, income tax will be recovered from the first account holder. Sometimes it might have happened by the mistake of the bank or the concerned pensioner. Pensioner's name becomes the second number name. In such cases, no income tax will be recovered. This may please be noted also. And one more thing is mandatorily pension account, that is joint account, has to be opened in the name of the pensioner. But mistakes have happened in bank which we have come across. Therefore, I am clarifying this point. Then we come to family pension, because I have received a lot of questions on this issue only, family pension. A family of a government servant who dies after completion of 1 year of continuous service or before completion of 1 year continuous service, provided the employee was medically examined and declared fit for the government prior to his appointment. This is a misnomer, because without that medical certificate, nobody will be appointed. So every person who joins the government servant, even if he puts 1 day service, if he dies while in service, he is entitled for family pension. After retirement from service, was in receipt of pension or compassionate allowance on the date of death, supposing a person is also entitled for that. Continuous service means service in pensionable establishment with more than 18 years. That is not required now for us. Then nomination for family pension. After the 6th and 7th pay commission, the eligibility for the family pension can be divided into 2 categories. Category 1, widow or widower up to the date of death or remarriage, whichever is earlier. Suppose widow and widower are there. They are the first beneficiary of the family pension. They are entitled for family pension till they die or remarriage, whichever is earlier. Of course, on the question of remarriage, there is one more this thing, I will come to it later. Son, daughter, including widowed daughter, up to that of their marriage or till he starts earning, that is, or till 25 years, whichever, that is, number 1, marriage or remarriage, or he starts earning, she or she starts earning, or 25 years, whichever is earlier. So maximum is at 25 years it will stop. Then category 2 comes unmarried, widowed, divorced daughters not covered by category 1. Those who are not covered under category 1 to the date of his or marriage, remarriage, or till she is earning up to the date of death, whichever is the earlier. There is age limit has been removed in such cases for daughters. Parents who are wholly dependent on the government servant when she was alive, provided the deceased employee nor left no widow or a child. That is the thing. So only after it is exhausted, parents will come into the picture. Family pension is dependent parents, unmarried widow daughters will continue till the date of death. Here age limit is not there, date of death. Only condition is and family pension to unmarried widow daughters in category 2, dependent parents shall be payable only after the eligible family members in category 1. So after category 1 is established, those who are in category 2 will get into the, will be eligible for getting into the family pension. Grant of family pension to children in respect of categories is in order of their date of birth. So what is the order? The date of birth. The dependent criteria for purpose shall be minimum family pension with DR. That is, now if a minimum family pension is 9,000 rupees, DR as it stands is 17%. Therefore, 9,000 plus 17%, that is the minimum eligibility income for that. The child, we said about widow remarriage, but there is one exception. Childless widow of a deceased government employee, no children, pensioner has died, childless widow, she will get family pension even after her remarriage. Childless widow will continue to get the family pension even after remarriage, till such time that her independent income is not more than 9,000 rupees plus appropriate DR on that 9,000 rupees. But this is not available for widower. Widower is not entitled for family pension after remarriage. But widow can get family pension even after remarriage, provided she has no children, subject to the condition that her own income should be less than 9,000 rupees plus appropriate DR on that 9,000 rupees. That is the difference between, because there was a question whether after remarriage also a person can get family pension. Only widow can get a family pension, but not the husband. Widower cannot get it. Widow can get it, the family pension, provided her income is less than 9,000 rupees plus appropriate DR. Then judicially separated spouse. Family pension is admissible. But if a separation is on account of adultery, proved, not alleged, if it is on account of around adultery proved, then they will not be getting the family pension. Then after retirement, I acquire a spouse, or a child is born, or I adopt a child. In such cases, family pension is admissible to them also. Then question of two family pensions. Both husband and wife are government servants. So two family pensions will come in that case. Can it be paid? Yes, it can be paid. For example, spouse is still service. He will get his salary plus family pension. And after his retirement, he will get pension plus family pension. Similarly, children and they also get two family pensions. One condition is there: total amount of such two family pension, if it is enhanced family pension is paid in one case, it should not exceed 45,000, and if it is not in enhanced rate, it should not exceed 27,000. Of course, this maximum limit was fixed after the 6th Pay Commission, because at that time, minimum family pension, the 30% of the salary was, maximum salary was 27,000, double that is 45,000. But now, after the 7th Pay Commission, it has to be revised. The revision should have been 67,000 if a not enhanced rate. If it is enhanced rate, 1,25,000. But orders are not yet issued by the government. Therefore, as it stands, is 27,000 rupees and 45,000 rupees are applicable. How family pension will be paid? Normally, the amount of family pension is sanctioned and authorized at the same time and indicated in the pension payment order and is to be drawn after the death of the pensioner. In case of the death of a pensioner, a deceased pensioner's spouse, that I already explained. Now, for example, disabled child is there. Government of India has issued an order on 3rd March 2020. Disabled child name can be included in the PPO along with the spouse name at the time of retirement itself. But one condition is there: other children should not be there for eligible for family pension. So that is there. So why this has been done by government is, a disabled person approaching for family pension after the death of the mother and father will have to undergo a lot of difficulties. Therefore, this particular amendment has been made. This order has been issued on 3rd March 2020. Only thing is, we are not able to send our journals because of this lockdown. Many of you may not have seen that order. It is available in the website of the Department of Pension as well as in the pensioners portal that can be checked. So this point may be noted. And as far as wife or husband is concerned, if they have got a joint account, as I have already explained, simple intimation to bank is sufficient. If they have not got a joint account, then Form 14 has to be filled in. Of course, attestation of Form 14 is not required, but 2 witnesses has to be put their signature on that. Based upon the KYC norms that is available in the bank, pension will be disbursed. But joint account children are concerned, or if the spouse name is not included in the PPO, then they have to approach the pension sanctioning authority for authorization, because banks cannot automatically pay the pension, family pension. They have to approach the pension sanctioning authority. Both the halves of the PPO has to be cancelled. Fresh PPO will be issued in the name of the eligible beneficiary. This has to be claimed. If the pension is not being credited, then it's there. The other children will apply to the head of the office for sanction of family pension. First, it will be widow, then to the children in the order of their date of birth till they reach 25 years or etc. Then it will be paid to the, if any disabled child, it will be paid for the lifetime. That is the system. After this, all things is exhausted, you go to category 2, like daughters, widowed daughters, sisters, parents, etc. That is the order in which it is paid. Thereafter, family pension may be paid to the parents who dependent. Disabled siblings, that is brother and sister, are also entitled. When all these people are exhausted, disabled children, brothers will also, sisters, that is sibling, will also get the family pension. Of course, is family pension payable to more than one member? That was the question that I received. Normally, the family pension is payable to one eligible member at a time. In certain specific cases, the family pension is divided among eligible members of the family. First is more than one widow, except in the case of Hindu widow. Polygamy and polyandry, because after the Sharda was passed in 1956, under the Hindu Marriage Act, you cannot have more than one living spouse. But in some other religions, it is permissible, that is there. So in such cases, the family pension will be divided equally between the widows. Widows or widowers. Then a widow and an eligible child from a divorce. So it so happens, you have got first spouse is there, or you have got a child from the first spouse, divorced or died, second spouse has come, there are children there also. In such cases, family pension will be divided between this child of the first spouse and the second spouse. Remember, first spouse child should not have crossed the age of 25 years. That is the thing. If the twins, triplets, quadruplets are there, yes, family pension is divided equally to all the eligible persons. So this is a special case where more than one widow is there, or children from first sibling, for widow is first spouse is there, then second spouse is taken, and also when you have got twins, etc., more than 2 children, twins, there also family pension is divided equal. This is the only exception where family pension is paid to more than one member. In all the above cases, death of one recipient, his or her family shall become payable to, supposing second widow dies, then there is only child from the first widow, first spouse, they will get the family pension transfer. The entire amount will be given to it. That is there. Then enhanced family pension. Family pension is paid at 30% of the pay lost on, because one of the question that was there. However, in following 3 cases, family pension is payable at enhanced rate of 50% of the first pension from 1/1/2006, where a person dies while in service after rendering not less than 7 years of continuous service. The rate of family pension will be equal to the 50% of the last pay drawn from the date of death of the deceased government servant, payable for a period of 10 years. So after 7 years, if a government servant dies, enhanced family, double the family pension or 50% of the last pay drawn, whichever is less, shall be given as family pension for a period of 10 years. If a pensioner dies or a government servant dies after retirement, enhanced family pension is payable for a period of 7 years or up to 67 years, whichever is less. Because we are retiring at 60 years, 67 years is there. Supposing you take a person has taken a voluntary retirement at 55 years. He dies at the 56th year, it will be given only up to 63 years, that is 7 years. In no case, the amount of family pension exceed the pension authorized to the retired government servant. That is, it cannot be more than the pension that has been sanctioned to the retired government. Then, as far as arrears of pension or family pension, there is a rule known as Payment of Arrears of Pension Nomination Rules 1986. Every government servant has to give his nomination who will draw the arrears of pension in the event of death. If such a nomination exists, then it will be paid to the nominee. Number 2, now post office savings bank account as well as bank deposit rules permit nomination facility for SB account, current account, as well as term deposit accounts. So if you have made such a nomination, automatically lifetime arrear, that is arrears up to the date of death of the pensioner, will be paid to such nominee. If no nomination exists, either under the bank deposit rules or under the payment of arrears of pension nomination rules, then civil procedure code has to be followed for getting the lifetime arrears. That means you have to go to a revenue officer, prepare a family tree, then legal headship certificate should be done. All that procedure has to be followed. Therefore, my sincere suggestion to all of my pensioner friends is, please nominate a person for your bank account, because we are all drawing from the bank. Once you nominate your nominee for a bank account, automatically that person will be entitled to get the family pension, the arrears of pension, lifetime arrears of the pension. Then life certificate. All of us have to furnish a life certificate on November 1st, in the month of November. If such a life certificate is not given in the month of November, pension for the month of December will not be credited to our account. Even those pensioners who have retired between January and October, they too have to furnish the life certificate. If pensioner has retired in November, he need not produce the life certificate because in the month of November he is there already. This has to be remembered. Supposing you cannot furnish the life certificate before November 30th, of course, no, once relaxation